Yeah, I want to see like in the stories of things that they've done. Have they ever taken a risk? Have they ever thrown themselves into the proverbial deep end of the pool? Have they, gone outside their comfort zone? Do they enjoy, learning? Are they a lifetime learner? Are they, someone that sort of has that spark and that energy? You can usually see that when someone tells you, stories of where they worked or projects they've worked on or how they've moved around. And in a way, it's almost like the anti-linear progression. I want people that left the industry and went over here and tried something different. And if they failed and then they learned something, so it was even better. And so that kind of sort of non-traditional journey is kind of like the traditional employee to us.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today, we're going to talk about the entrepreneurial mindset. Specifically, how do you lead and hire people with an entrepreneurial mindset? You may be asking yourself, why do I want to hire people? Well, in your business, if you're growing fast, if you're trying to innovate, then you need people that can handle that adaptation and really think quickly about solving problems that have never been solved before. Some people just aren't comfortable with it. And we've seen this challenge across many of our clients where they hire people from corporate that aren't willing to move fast. And it becomes a lot of friction inside of what they're really trying to do. And so we put out content to help you continue to grow and scale your business. And today is really just about how to hire people with that entrepreneurial mindset. Our special guest today is the founder and CEO of 2X, and he is Domenic Colasante. And Dom and I talk about this entrepreneur spirit from a hiring perspective. How do you actually assess whether someone has the entrepreneur spirit? We also look at how do you lead them and what are the core elements that are necessary there. And we also look at sort of some of the challenges that get in the way. So if you're curious about our interview today, take good notes and see if you can find little nuggets that you can apply into your own culture so that you can grow at the pace at which you would like to grow. My name is Gene Hammett. I'm an executive coach. We do leadership development. We've done more work with fast growth companies than any other leadership development company in the world. And I'm really excited about what we do and how we help companies scale. There's unlimited amount of opportunities in front of you. But if you think about what's really going on in your world, you've got to lead your team really well. You've got to have a culture that aligns people together, and you've got to have everything working together for you and not against you. Because if you have friction that's dragging you down, it's going to be filled with stress. It's going to slow you down. And that really isn't the idea for growth. So if you would like to join the conversation with other fast growth CEOs, just go to corelevation.com/virtual conversations. Inside that is a monthly conversation we have with other CEOs and other executives of fast growth companies where we take ideas and go deep into them about what are the real problems? Why are these showing up? How do we address them? And what are some of the nuances behind it? And we do that every month. So if you're curious about that, just go to corelevation.com/virtual conversations. Now, here's the interview with Dom. Dom, how are you?
I'm doing well, Gene. Pleasure to be with you.
Well, I'm glad to have you here on the podcast and talk about entrepreneurial talent and kind of what makes you guys work. So tell us about your company, 2X.
Sure. So I founded the firm in 2017. We're in the marketing services space. Think of us like a managed services firm. And so a little bit different than agencies that might do a project at a point in time. We stick around. And so we provide ongoing services for the marketing department, generally for companies in the B2B space, and provide full scope execution capabilities. So whether it's creative, whether it's tech management, whether it's campaigns, whether it's analytics, development, the full gamut of capabilities to run the marketing function. And we have resources all around the world to do that. We have resources in Kuala Lumpur in the Philippines, and are really helping marketing leaders build a different kind of operating model where they can really lean into strategic roles and very core competency roles onshore in the US, and then push some of that execution work, some of the run work, some of the process work, some of like tech managed services in particular, push that offshore, get the benefit of global economics, but also get the benefit of someone who's in the business of doing that every day.
Well, I don't see that many people out there in the marketing world with this kind of model. How did you develop it?
Yeah, I think it's a newer category. This model is very common in IT and finance and accounting and procurement and HR, but it's newer to marketing. I developed it when I was a CMO and really built the business out of necessity. I found that marketers are innovating so much on their tech stack, on their ad budget, on their program spend, they're obsessing about how to bring in, AI and other things, but they're not really innovating on the org chart. Most marketers have the same internal org with everybody, in-house, used to be in headquarters in person. Now we've gone remote, but at least that org hasn't really been evolved. And so I found when I was a CMO, I struggled with we call it the marketing resource paradox. Every CMO has this problem. You never have enough resources or budget or time to get the work you need done. And the business always needs more impact than you can produce. And I was looking for alternative ways to sort of evolve my capacity and bandwidth, and ended up building a team in Southeast Asia to help me as a CMO. And it was transformational. And having told other CMO friends about that, they convinced me to make it a business and carve it out. And that really became 2X after, I guess, I was customer number one. It was sort of my jump into the CEO world.
Well, I appreciate you giving us that background and sharing with us. The reason why we came here is not to talk about marketing, although I'm sure we could go back and forth. And a lot of our audience probably struggles with marketing, especially the B2B world, it seems to be. But I want to really focus on leadership and culture. And I know that one of the things that you had said to our research team that really tries to understand the people before we put them behind the mic is your people are extremely important to you. Tell us a little bit more about the way you see the people of your staff.
Yeah. I mean, as a services business, and we are 100% services, almost 1,000 people in the firm. Our entire product is the thoughts and work of our employees. And I've really leaned into that as we built the firm. All we are in the end is a bunch of people. Software companies have IP and products and, technology that can exist beyond the team that built it. Our work is every dollar of revenue has some labor, hour or unit of labor behind it. And as I put the team together, I've really thought about that in every hire we've made, and that, the people in the firm are how our clients experience our services and our product. The people in the firm are what power our growth and our innovation. And frankly, these are people you spend more time with than your family. So you want to really like them. You want to get to know them, and you want to have this great place to work. And I've really tried to find the best people in the world to work in our firm, and whatever the category of expertise we're providing is, like, how can we find the most talented people to work in that role? And I'm really fortunate to have seen employee retention far off the industry benchmark. Our voluntary attrition is about 13% per year. We run a really great model for someone either in a services company or an agency or a managed service company. Tends to be 30 to 40%. So I think we've built something really special.
That is really special, 13%. You talked about finding the right people. What are you really looking for beyond, skills and things like that?
Yeah, curiosity is my favorite thing to look for when I interview someone. And when our leaders interview someone, I've sort of built that as our beliefs and our, how we operate our craft. I think folks that are curious how things work, that want to understand why things are the way they are and how to make them better, and why certain things operate different ways. That curiosity for me is really important. The second is sort of like an entrepreneurial growth mindset. As a newer firm that's really only 5 or 6 years old, we've constantly been in this place of having to build things that don't exist and solve new problems. And folks that are like comfortable with that ambiguity, that like to innovate, that like to, find a situation where there's not a process or procedure, but create one, or just operate in a way that is in alignment with our values, but, doesn't necessarily have full documentation. Those kinds of like people that thrive and are comfortable in those new situations and new environments has been a real core attribute of who we've looked for.
So how do you assess whether someone has that entrepreneurial growth mindset?
Yeah, I want to see, like, in the stories of things that they've done, have they ever taken a risk? Have they ever thrown themselves into the proverbial deep end of the pool? Have they, gone outside their comfort zone? Do they enjoy, learning? Are they a lifetime learner? Are they, someone that sort of has that spark and that energy? You can usually see that when someone tells you, stories of where they worked or projects they worked on or how they've moved around. And in a way, it's almost like the anti-linear progression. I want people that left the industry and went over here and tried something different, and if they failed and then they learned something, and so it was even better. And so that kind of sort of non-traditional journey is kind of like the traditional employee in 2X.
I think a lot of companies shy away from entrepreneurial minded people because they're afraid that they're going to leave. You shared with us your attrition rate. So if you give them a place to exercise that curiosity and innovation, they don't really want to leave. They want to do more of that. Have you found that to be true?
1,000%. And another one I hear, not only that, yes, if you give them a place where they can thrive and really stretch that muscle and be around other people, that's a place they want to be in. Because you can innovate inside of a company. You could be an entrepreneur in a business. We just created an AI practice. We just, launched 3 other service offerings. We're opening new geos around the world. Like there's a huge amount of innovation and entrepreneurship inside of a company. Another one I also hear related to that, though, is also training and certifications. And so we spend a lot of time and a lot of money getting our employees certified on different tech products or different methodologies. And I talk to other CEOs and they're always like, well, if you do that, then you've made them more valuable to another business. Well, one, pay them more after they do that because they're now more valuable to you. But 2, employees remember that investment that you've made in them, right? If you're paying to get them educated and certified and giving them capabilities, employer-employee loyalty does still exist. I think we've had, some hard stints at that over the last 2 years, but for employers that really do take care of their workforce, treat them well, leave them better than you found them. That's the makings of great employee retention.
Dom just said something that was really interesting. A lot of people are worried about giving training to employees because it will make them more valuable. And the answer to that is yes, they are more valuable. But wouldn't you want to invest in their talents and skills and help them get better at it so that while they're with you, even if they leave in 2 or 3 years, you're getting optimized output. They're growing and really innovating with you, and you're getting the benefit from it. Your clients are benefiting. Everyone's benefiting when you have the right people that are leaning into that. And people really have a higher sense of ownership around the work they do if they feel like they're growing. If they feel like they're stagnant, they don't engage the same way. They don't innovate. They don't share their ideas, and they begin to grow a little apathetic. And that's not the goal of your culture. And really, it's not going to help you grow and meet your scale needs. So invest in your people, train them on the hard skills, but also the people skills that are necessary to make them leaders. If you need any help with that, make sure you reach out to us at coreelevation.com. Now back to Dom. Dom, we're talking about what it takes to really attract this entrepreneurial mindset. What kind of leader do they require? Because it's not straightforward leadership the way a lot of people want to work with their employees. Just here's the SOP, go do it. The entrepreneurial mindset doesn't necessarily want to do it exactly like that. So how do you guys lead these entrepreneurial people?
Yeah, I think it's about setting the goal and then not necessarily setting the path of how to get to it. And so I'm known in the business, and my CFO and I always have fun debates about, the crazy founder goal that I'll come up with of like, we want to grow 100% this year. And like, I think it's about that. It's about putting, planting the flag on something that's achievable, but we don't know how we're going to get there, or that is, we could get there 5 different ways, but we haven't figured out which one. It starts there. I think it starts with setting something that's hard and difficult, but worthy of the challenge. And then I think it's also about giving people the empowerment to make decisions, on the ground, giving people freedom to, work outside the lines, or, grab a peer, or, spend time on a project that might be a little different than their day-to-day role. That kind of empowerment that they're, able to execute on a dream is very different than, this is your job, these are the roles and responsibilities, this is the description, this is where you have to get approvals. Like, we don't have a lot of that process and bureaucracy, and we'll have to change that as we grow, because you'll definitely want to aim this organization at a more aligned goal that gets everybody rowing in the same direction. But I think you can have that with the true north, or the North Star, but without, a very clear, fully built plan of every action to occur to get there.
I want to switch gears on this a little bit, just tuning into what are your principles of leadership that guide you to have the success that you've had?
Yeah, I mean, some of them are based on great leaders I had around me. I mean, I'm a 35-year-old CEO. I am in this position because I've had a lot of help, and I've had a lot of good mentors, and I've had a lot of people give me opportunities that I frankly may not have deserved or wasn't qualified for. And I think it's a bit of that. One, like believing in people and giving them a shot. I think is really important. If you try to find that perfect person for every role that has everything on paper you want, that person might be at their peak. I want people that are, they're still on the way up, right? That are that are still growing and learning. And so giving people sort of the freedom to go tackle a mission that might be something bigger than they've tackled before. That's a piece of it. And I think maybe another piece would be, I want the people in this firm who, understand the jobs of those underneath them. And so we haven't brought in a lot of career managers, I call them, or people that are just, kind of so far removed from the work that they don't really understand the day-to-day job. My favorite manager is someone that intimately knows the work of those reporting to them and can jump in and help and coach and guide and mentor, and isn't so removed from not even knowing how to do it anymore that they can't really, operate in the trenches. Like, I think of the servant leadership philosophy, and the leader should be in front of the team, pulling, with them. And finding people that are kind of, whether at their executive team and work for me directly or other leaders in our firm, I want people with that kind of, operating mentality in the role.
Now, Dom mentioned servant leadership, which I agree is a very powerful idea inside of it. But a lot of people misinterpret servant leadership. I want to make sure that you understand that, when you are a team member and you go in as a servant, you work for them. Now, everyone knows this, but I want to make sure, here's where some people get it out of whack. You're not doing the work for them. You're not solving the problems for them. You have to actually guide them as a coach. You have to support them. You have to ask the questions. Servant leadership doesn't mean you do it for them. It means you guide them to a higher level of understanding and that they can do it themselves. Now, not every employee is able to do that right away, but if they've been with you for 6 months, a year, 4 years, you're not going to always jump in and solve the problem for them. You're going to actually coach them through these challenges so that on the other side of it, they are a happier, more engaged, productive, efficient employee, and you are seen as a better leader because of it. Back to Dom. Dom, I know we've all made mistakes in our entrepreneurial journeys. I've made big ones. I'm sure you've made some too. Is there a mistake that you could share with us today that we might learn from?
I have always struggled with keeping really focused on the mission, especially as we're in a place where our business has a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of different markets we could serve, a lot of different products we could offer, a lot of different capabilities we can build. And we're sort of in this paradox of too many choices because they're all good ideas. And I found that sometimes when you try to take 5 things and do all 5, you end up doing each one a 5th as well as you should have. And sometimes you're better off picking one thing and committing it and refusing to fail and delivering that. And over time, I found that the moments where our company stumbled or the moments where we didn't succeed at our goal is because we had diversion focus. We were pushing 2 big priorities at the same time, or 5 big priorities at the same time. And I think in especially getting through that startup to scale up phase, you don't have the capacity to process all of those things or manage all those things or track all of those things, and almost like the less you do, the more successful you are sometimes. And I've seen us drift a little bit when we try to go after a new idea that we might not really need to worry about right now.
I say this to a lot of my clients, and I'm wondering, how do you actually get your executive team to align around this? Because I'm sure they have ideas of their own they'd like to execute on. They're not all Dom's ideas, because you love your ideas. But they may have an idea that doesn't fit into this quarter or this year's strategic plan. How do you manage those expectations?
I think you got to have a lot of debate, and you got to have a leadership team that is cohesive and will have a healthy argument about these things. And I'm a huge believer of in-person time. I run a global company with offices all around the world, and travel budget is the last expense line I manage. I think getting the leadership team in person to sit together and to discuss what's important and not important, and discuss the one thing we're going to go do, and be fully aligned on that, and debate it if someone isn't aligned. We do that regularly. I'm always sending people all around to our delivery centers and our physical offices. I like to operate an in-person culture. We're out in the Philadelphia office right now today. People are in the office 3 to 4 days a week. In our offices in Southeast Asia, they're in 2 to 3 days a week. I think that is a better culture than folks that are never in the office. I think hybrid is definitely something important and something very, key, but hybrid doesn't mean 100% remote. Hybrid means both. And so having that human connection time where you can't really debate that over Zoom, it's just a different dynamic that you get real trust and energy out of when you're in person. And so creating those moments is a big part of how I manage the team.
Anything else that we've left out on hiring people with an entrepreneurial mindset?
No, maybe one thing I'll give you since you asked. I think that one of the things I found interesting is in a business that's scaling really fast, and everything has to be built for the first time. Like nothing exists, no policy, no procedure, no norms, no rituals. Nothing has been created. You have to create all of it. And I spent my early career working in large enterprise companies like SAP and Siemens and giant companies that have like always had ways of doing things. And frankly, I don't know how I could build this business if I didn't have entrepreneurial people around me, because someone every day has to solve something that they've never done before, because the business has never, had that problem before, never reached the level of scale before where it needs that attention. And it's almost like on one part, it's a strength to have people that can do that. But another part, I don't know how the business could succeed without it. You need people that will just run into that moment and like something's on fire, like just grab a bucket before you ask anybody. Like that kind of thinking is sort of how we've powered the business.
I appreciate you being here, sharing your wisdom, your insights, Dom. I really love the fact that you talk about this entrepreneurial mindset. It's something that we have talked about a lot on the podcast, but I don't think we can talk about it enough because it's such an important piece of, I think, where our workforce is going. Is we want people to think for themselves, to have a sense of innovation and continuous learning. So appreciate your wisdom today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Wow, what a great interview. I love talking about the entrepreneurial mindset, especially with people that are, building these big organizations and really driven to do something special in this world and have a unique perspective. And I think Dom fits that very well. If there's anything that we can do to help you continue to grow and scale your business, help you overcome the people problems that you might be experiencing or have better leadership, all you have to do is reach out. I'd love to help you. We have a lot of different ways that we could serve you, but if you just send me a quick email, gene@genehammett.com, would be the easiest way for us to connect, and happy to get to know you. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, the courage. We'll see you next time.